Hi, I'm Maddie, sitting down with the current here with Jack Antonoff today of Bleachers, of producing every single album I think that exists, all of that good stuff. How are you doing today, Jack?
I'm okay. I'm just in the studio at home doing what I've done for a year.
Yeah, what has your kind of quarantine home studio routine been like?
It's been interesting because a portion of my life is unchanged because before COVID, I would just go into the studio alone
Hmm.
and that all looks the same. And then another portion of my life is gone, touring.
Hmm.
So I think no, it makes me feel connected to everyone and also on an island at the same time.
Yeah. With kind of like that jet setting touring part of your life gone, do you feel like the kind of spots that your songs come from have changed at all, or is that still kind of coming from somewhere internal?
I think the core of them haven't changed the things I'm writing about, but the feeling behind them has changed. It reminds me of when I was a kid and
Hmm.
I wasn't playing shows and I didn't have an audience. And so the process of writing and recording was this like, it was more of a big leap of faith just to do it. And then everything was like a big dream. Like I would dream about playing and dream about having people who cared about it. And I've gotten back to that place a little bit. And I think the result has been an album that actually feels more like a live dream sequence than I could have imagined because I'm not in that conversation that I normally am when I make records where I'm playing and then I'm recording.
Hmm. Yeah, with this upcoming Bleachers record, what do you think that people are going to hear that is different from the records that you have put out in the past? It's been now, I guess, what, 3, 4 years since the past record. So, what do you think has changed?
A ton has changed for me. It's
Hmm.
the biggest thing is, the bigger a band gets, the more like you feel like intent on like speaking to the audience. So it's like,
Hmm.
I mean, that's the only real goal of what we're trying to do out here is to like find our people and then talk to them, and that group of people can expand. But it's not about casting some insane wide net to
Hmm.
find everyone. It's about having this like really intense furthering conversation with the people who are there. And so that's been a really interesting thing about this album, is the third album, because it feels like there's things I can get into almost like a TV show where it's like people know the context. So it's not about my first album. I felt like a lot of stuff which I loved, but it was like almost like cliff notes of my life, and
Hmm.
now I can just I don't know, maybe cut a little deeper.
Yeah, kind of returning to a new season of a show where like, people already know the characters.
Yeah, I feel like there's less. I have to like explain things in a way less, and I can just reference them, or a feeling, or then you end up starting to write about your experiences within a project. So it's like even the experience of this band, it's like there's things to reference within that, even musically, that certain people who've been listening will pick up on.
Definitely. No, you've been absolutely super busy producing and co-writing records with a ton of artists over the past couple of years, like the Chicks and Taylor Swift and Lana Del Rey. How does your songwriting process differ when you're writing stuff for Bleachers than when you're collaborating with other artists?
Oddly similar and oddly different all at once, which I know sounds silly, but similar in that the goal is the same, completely the same. It's just there's a feeling or a part of you that needs to be documented, and you're just sort of like throwing the goalpost and chasing it.
Hmm.
It's different, I would say, mostly because if it's Bleachers, it's kind of like the sound of me wrestling with myself.
Hmm.
And if I'm working with someone else, it's I feel like I'm really supporting someone and sort of bouncing off of each other to kind of like get rid of all sort of like the parts that are like the like like trapdoors where you can get lost in something, and just like
Hmm.
stay on a track. uh I don't know, it's very odd because they're like inherently different because it's alone versus with someone. But I do feel like with writing and making records, you're almost like praying to this god that you're hoping you get the ideas and you can create them, so that process is the same.
Hmm.
And that version of prayer is doing it and not settling and sort of like cutting closer and closer to the bone on everything, and really listening to your gut on things, because it's really wrong to 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 stray away from your gut if you're in this kind of work.
Yeah, I saw a tweet that you had made a couple weeks ago about kind of like killing the voice of the algorithm in your head to make music that streams better. How do you kind of grapple with that within your own music and writing on your own?
Well, there's a lot of information that we have that
Hmm.
is super interesting,
Hmm.
but super harmful if you're writing music.
Hmm.
So, like, how fascinating to know, you know, how long, and believe me, everyone who works in the music industry does know, because it's their job to,
Hmm.
how long an intro should be, or what BPMs are working, or this or this or that or whatever. And it's just all designed to just destroy your soul, and make you feel insecure. And I think everyone has that feeling no matter what work they do, which is like, if I make it, it's this,
Hmm.
but when someone else does it, it's real. And
Hmm.
I'm I and that's and that's like, there's so much in one's own life that you have to get past to make your work correctly. The last thing you need is to also bring in the world,
Hmm.
which inherently we do, and then inherently, for a myriad of reasons, that's getting harder and harder. So I feel like, as an artist, it's like the armor that you normally have to have, you have to develop more and more and more. That's what I was referencing with what you're saying, is just to, like, this can't help. It can only hurt, and it will hurt, and it will. It's like meditating. You have your mantra, so you can constantly bring yourself back. And writing music is no different. There's all these concepts and facts or whatever that can really get you away from yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like that's changed, or like how do you feel like that's changed in the years since you have been making music and have been putting music out into the world?
I don't think it's. I don't think the it's like this cloud that always lives. I don't think that's changed. I just think the things within it, like,
Hmm.
sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's snowing, but it's like the same crap. Where it's like, when I was first coming up, it was like, you got to do it this way, and it's all this. And then at one point, it was all MySpace algorithms, and now it's all Spotify algorithms. But it's the
Hmm.
same thing, which is that you can't understand what's going to reach people.
Hmm.
And so that creates an industry around artists who are desperately trying to figure out, like, shortcuts to make things work. But that's just not what we're doing. That's not what this is. And if you read the history of the industry, never gets wiser. The crap we deal with in music right now is no different than what they dealt with in recorded music in the 50s.
Hmm.
It's the same sort of anti-artist sentiment. It's the same uh, racism. It's the same. It's all the same systems in place, except instead of little 45s, it's streaming or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And that's stuff that needs to get corrected. But from where I sit, which is just someone in a room trying to block out all the noise and make my work, I just try to do it for myself, and then also preach the gospel of, like, this songwriting is not an optimizable
Hmm.
thing. It can't get easier, it can't get better, it can't get cooler. It's just something that's done.
Hmm.
It's like,
Absolutely.
it's like finding a better way to, like, fall in love or something. It seems really upsetting to me. So I think nothing's changed. There's just different names for it.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way of looking at it, that Spotify is just kind of like a different iteration of like something that's been existing for so many
Yeah,
decades.
the stories we hear from streaming are not terribly different than the stories we heard from CDs, that we heard from vinyl, that
Hmm.
we heard from people stealing publishing in the 50s or 60s. It's all the same story, and the story is cyclical, because artists don't want to spend their life doing anything besides making their art, so they're
Hmm.
easy to take advantage of because they're distracted, as they should be. So there's
Yeah.
always been industry in place that is messing with them.
Speaking of evolution, I saw that when Evermore came out, you had posted that you've been working with Taylor Swift since 2013. How has that relationship kind of evolved over the past near decade, and how do you feel like that's influenced your writing today?
Greatly. I mean, she was really the first person
Mm-hmm.
who believed in me as a producer.
Mm-hmm.
I always sort of made my own records and had some success there, and then when I started working with other people, there was this feeling of, like, oh, you know how to write songs, but you can't produce songs. Sort of like,
Mm-hmm.
we need to take it to someone who does it for real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was on, Out of the Woods or Strangers in Fiction, some of the first stuff that I did with her, where we did it and I put my heart and soul into it. And then I was sort of expecting, like, I had all these other experiences for someone to be like, all right, now we're going to have someone produce it. And she was like, yeah, that's done.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed changed the course of my life, not only outward, but also inward. When other people believe in you, it's, a lot can grow from there.
Mm-hmm.
So when Evermore and Folklore came out, it was, really wild to look back and just think about how important she is to me and the work we've made together, and then also the way that it's affected me
Mm-hmm.
is pretty intense. So that just your typical sappy post.
That's all good stuff. Looks like we're gonna have to wrap it up soon, but thank you so much, Jack
Really?
Antonoff, for
No.
taking a second to sit down today, talk about
Is
music.
everybody okay by you?
What's that?
Is everybody okay by you? Are you? It seems like you're in the studio. Like, is it is it crazy? Well, I guess you guys are like. It must be nice to do your job, because at least your
Mm-hmm.
job is in an isolated room with no one
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting because like I come in person, I work in person, but I'm one of I don't maybe like 10 people in this building where there's usually like 300 people, so it's really quiet. But it's nice because like right now I'm in the office and I can just sit in this little room,
Yeah,
and it feels almost normal.
that's. I feel like my job is probably somewhat similar to a person in
Mhm.
radio, where it's like all the pieces of like getting to my job are totally bananas and feel like
Mhm.
a horrible like 80s version of like a future movie.
Yeah.
But then once I'm in the room, I'm like, this is no different.
Yeah, I mean, radio is always like you're sitting in a room and talking to yourself, which I guess is kind of how recording songs must feel because it's
Totally,
yeah,
completely.
yeah,
Yeah, really bizarre thing that to choose to do.
yeah. Is the sitting alone and talking to the world.
Yeah.
Different approaches to kind of the same situation here.
Well, it's nice to talk to you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much.